Good day, students. How are you? So I hope you are all doing just fine in your houses, okay? So before watching this video, please make sure that you have already eaten something so that you can really comprehend everything that I will tackle in this video. So if you're hungry right now, please make sure to grab something to eat. Alright, let's get started. So in this video, we are going to tackle our first lesson and second lesson in this subject, which is all about the fundamentals of reading and locating main ideas. But I'll start first with our first lesson, which is all about the fundamentals of reading, okay? So before we formally start, I want you first to get a piece of paper and a pen. Then I want you to list down 10 books that you love reading. Afterwards, determine your purpose or the reasons why you read those books. So you can just pause this video while doing the activity. Okay, so are you done? Okay, so why do you read those books, class? Or why do people read? Now, people have wondered why reading is important. But the question is reading really important? The answer is yes. Learning how to read is not optional, class. It is a must that all people should know how to read. If not, just try to imagine yourself not being able to read or identify even a single alphabet. Imagine yourself not being able to understand even the most basic vocabularies. Did it scare you? You should be. Because reading is a fundamental skill in order for us to function and survive in today's society. So we have here our student learning objectives. First, differentiate academic text from non-academic text. Second, appreciate the importance of knowing the 3 stages of reading and integrate them into the real life situations. And lastly, we have read sample academic texts from their other classes using the different reading strategies. So to begin with, of course, we always start with the basic question. What is reading? Reading is an interactive process in which the reader's prior knowledge of the world interacts with the message conveyed directly or indirectly by the text. Now, even though I cannot hear your voice, I still want this class to be highly interactive. So I want you to repeat after me, okay? So can you please say reading? Okay, now say interactive process. How about reader's prior knowledge? And the last one, please say, reading is an interactive process in which the reader's prior knowledge of the world interacts with the message conveyed directly or indirectly by the text. Alright, so thank you so much, class, if you really cooperated with me. Now, again, reading is an interactive process that uses our prior knowledge in order to understand a certain text that we are reading. But there are 2 types of text. We have academic text and non-academic text. So, what's the difference of the 2? In order for you to understand these 2 types of text, I have here a short video that I want you to watch. But before playing the video, I want you to get another piece of paper first, and of course your ball pen. Okay, so do you already have your paper and pen? Okay, so while watching this video, I want you to create a Venn diagram and then take note of the similarities and differences of academic text and non-academic text. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so here's the video, everyone.
Welcome to this tutorial on reading academic texts from the University of Reading Study Advice team. The tutorial is designed for you to go through at your own pace, and you can pause it at any time. Reading is just reading. Well, isn't it? But how would you go about reading, say, a novel in comparison to a magazine, or a glossy advert, or even your module handbook? It's very unlikely that you'd approach them in the same way, as we all adopt different reading strategies depending on the type of text we're reading and why, even if we might not consciously realise that this is what we're doing. The same is true for academic reading. You need certain approaches and strategies for this type of reading as it's different. When you're reading academic texts, you're reading critically. This doesn't just mean negatively, but that you have a purpose for your reading, that you need to select what to focus on, and that you need to read actively to make what you read useful and meaningful for you. Before you start any academic reading, it's good to spend a few moments thinking about your purpose for doing this reading. It may be quite general, such as developing background knowledge of a new topic. It may be more specific, such as answering a particular question that you have. Or it may be to build your understanding and fill in gaps after gaining the basic knowledge from, say, a lecture. Or it might be for a different purpose. Identifying what you want to get out of your reading means you can be more efficient, targeted, and motivated, rather than just diving straight in. Having a purpose enables you to be selective. At university, you're likely to be told many times that you need to read widely. But this doesn't mean that you're expected to read everything. Trying to do this is demotivating, impossible, and just simply not necessary for success. But how do you know what to select? A good strategy is to remind yourself of your purpose for reading, as asking, "What am I trying to find out?" helps you focus on where you can best find this out, so that you can select a more manageable and relevant number of texts to read. Also, unlike a novel that has a plot and a narrative, academic texts are not designed to be read from cover to cover. You also select which parts to read within a text using the structure of the text, such as the contents page, index, and headings, to direct you straight to the information that you need. Being selective is probably one of the most important abilities from academic reading that you'll develop throughout your time at university. To be efficient at reading academically, you need to read actively. If you just read academic texts over and over, hoping that the information will somehow pour into your brain, you're likely to fall asleep and not remember what you've read. This is because reading over and over is a passive way of reading. To read actively, you need to do something with the information that you read to engage with it, such as creating mind maps, different forms of notes, or making connections between what you've read. Here are some more strategies for active reading, such as asking yourself questions about what you're reading, which will help you engage critically with the text. You can pause the video at this point to look at them in more detail and perhaps select one or two that might fit with your style of working. Your reading list will only include texts that have been chosen by your tutors, but to get the best marks you'll need to go beyond your reading list. Once you're choosing your own reading, you will need to know how to evaluate text to decide what is suitable for academic reading. So imagine you're researching the effects of the rising tuition fees at UK universities. Which of these sources might you consider reading and why? A journal article? A book? A Wikipedia entry? A news story? And a satirical cartoon? Each and all of these sources may be suitable for different reasons, depending on your purpose and what you're trying to find out. A Wikipedia article may give a useful introductory overview to help orientate yourself in a new topic. A news story or cartoon are topical, but not necessarily academically rigorous. But they could be useful to show media opinions at the time. So to summarise, getting the most out of your academic reading is really about what you bring to the text. A purpose for your reading, a readiness to select texts based on their suitability and relevance, strategies for reading actively, and most importantly, a questioning attitude to what you read. If you do this, you will get what you need from what you read.
So after watching the video, I hope you already have a background about academic text and non-academic text. But to understand them more, let us tackle them one by one. So let's start first with the academic text. Academic text refers to the critical, objective, specialized text written by experts or professionals in a given field using formal language. Now, in order for you to familiarize what is meant by the word academic text, I want you to remember the following keywords. We have critical, experts, and formal. So meaning to say, academic texts are those texts that are used solely in an academic setting. For example, in the field of education, medicine, business industries, and many more. Some examples of academic texts include the following: book reports, research paper and research articles, academic journal, lastly, dissertation and thesis abstract. For dissertation and thesis abstract, these refers to academic texts that are written to obtain an advanced degree. For example, if you want to finish your master's and doctoral degrees someday, then you have to experience making this kind of academic text. Now, let's proceed to non-academic text. Non-academic text refers to text that can be written by anyone by using informal or casual language. These texts usually include one's opinions and point of view. So non-academic text is obviously the opposite of academic text. So if academic text used formal language, then this one uses informal language. So this is the time wherein we can freely express what we want to say, whether it could be our opinions, feelings, and so on. This is also the type of document wherein we can use colloquial words such as gonna, wanna, whatever, and that's awesome. Okay, but in academic text, you are not allowed to do that one. It's a big no-no class, okay? In academic text, you are not allowed to use slang words. It's only acceptable in non-academic text, so do not forget that one. Some examples of non-academic text include the following. We have personal opinion, personal letter, memos, magazines. Lastly, we have fiction or non-fiction books. Now, these one are very understandable, so no need to elaborate this. Take note, aside from the fundamental differences in content and form, academic text and non-academic text differ in the approach you take when reading them. Yes, it's true. Your approach when reading these kind of texts also differs. Based on the examples given in the academic text, we have book reports, dissertations, and theses. We can say that full concentration and comprehension are really required in order for you to understand the key ideas, informations, and arguments of the text. But for non-academic texts, it's quite relaxing compared to academic texts, since non-academic texts are written for the entertainment of the mass public. For example, books, novels, and many more. And all you have to do is to ignite your imagination. Okay, so before I proceed to the next topic, let's summarize first the difference between academic text and non-academic text. Okay, so for the definition, for academic writing or academic text, this refers to a formal and impersonal style of writing that is intended for a scholarly or academic audience. While for non-academic text or non-academic writing, this refers to an informal and often subjective style of writing that aims the mass public. And for the audience, for academic writing, we have academia, and for non-academic writing, we have the mass public. And for the purpose for academic writing, its purpose is to inform the readers with solid evidence, while for non-academic writing, its purpose is to inform, entertain, or persuade the readers. Next, we have the style. For academic writing, this is formal and impersonal, while for non-academic writing, this is personal, impressionistic, emotional, or subjective. While for the structure, for academic writing, we have standard structure, and for non-academic writing, we have no rigid structure. And for the language, for academic writing, we have formal language and avoids colloquialisms. While for non-academic writing, we have informal and casual language and may contain colloquialisms. Next, for citations and reference, for academic writing, it contains citations and references, while for non-academic writing, it often do not contain citations and references. And the last one, we have the examples. For academic writing, we have research papers, dissertations, scholarly articles, and for non-academic writing, we have newspaper and magazine articles, memoirs, letters, digital media, and many more. Okay, so I hope by now you can already differentiate academic text from non-academic text. So now let's proceed to our reading goals. Now, we all know that most people do not read just because they like the act of reading, but instead, people read because they have a goal. They have a purpose. But you will not read something that is not of interest to you, right? Take for example, if I hate politics, will I continue to read each news about politics? Of course not, because I don't have a reason to do it. I don't have a purpose. But if my teacher will instruct me to read articles about politics, just an example if I'm a student, then that's the time I'll have a purpose to read it because my teacher gave me a reason to do it. Okay? And having these reading goals class is really substantial in order to achieve an efficient and effective reading. And some of the things that you can ask before reading are the following. Why am I reading this text? What pieces of information do I need? And lastly, what do I want to learn? So by asking these questions, at least you'll be guided why you are reading a certain text. Okay, so now let's proceed to the general purposes for reading an academic text. We have to better understand an existing idea, to get ideas that can support a particular writing assignment, to gain more information, and lastly, to identify gaps in existing studies. Now, reading academic text is really beneficial to you as a student, especially right now that you already have your research. So aside from gaining a lot of information, you will also learn how to form arguments. This means that you will be able to practice writing a certain topic and develop an argument by using facts and evidences. Because through reading lots of academic texts, you will gain experience studying the strategies of other professional writers, and you may try to emulate them. Okay, so another purpose why you should read academic texts is for you to be exposed in different viewpoints. Exposure to different viewpoints can help you widen your ideas and beliefs in new ways and develop a better understanding of how others' perspective differ from your own. And lastly, by reading academic texts, there's really an assurance that those information comes from reputable sources or credible sources. Now let's proceed to the structure of an academic text. I know this structure is no longer new to you since you already have this in your English 2 subject last semester. So let's just have a quick review about it, okay? So technically, the structure of an academic text is composed of three major parts. We have the introduction, body, and the conclusion. And each major part includes a subpart. So for the introduction, we have identify the topic or purpose, orientate the reader, and the thesis statement. So in the first paragraph, you should always introduce your topic before proceeding to the major contents of your text. If not, this will create confusion to the readers. In worst case scenario, readers will not be able to understand your purpose. So you really have to orient your readers at first hand. And the last part of the introduction is the thesis statement. Your thesis statement states the central idea or argument of the text. This part is one of the most important parts since the body of the text revolves around the thesis statement. So without it, confusion and misunderstanding will probably occur. Now we have the body. The body is considered as the meat of the text. It discusses the thesis statement in detail through its paragraph. So this is the time wherein you provide more detailed information about the topic And you will include examples, statistics, graphs, tables, charts to support ideas and analyze the evidence. And for the conclusion, this is the time wherein you will restate your thesis statement, summarize main points, include final insights and recommendations. Okay? And take note, academic texts are typically formal. They have structured introduction, body, and conclusion, information from credible sources that are properly cited, and the last one we also have the list of references. Now there's actually another structure of an academic text. We have the EMRAD format, or the introduction, method, results, and discussion. But I will not elaborate this one since you will have this in your research subject. So I will just introduce to you the format. Okay, so as you can see, still it has introduction, body, and conclusion. But for the introduction, these are the things that you will include. We have findings and recommendations of previous studies, need to conduct the study, statement of the problem or objective of the study. And for the body, you will include the methods, results, and discussion. So for the methods, we have research methods and materials of the study, data procedure, and data analysis. So for the results, you will include the presentation of the findings of the study. And for the discussion, you will include the studies that either support or contradict the findings and inferences of the authors. And for the last part, in the conclusion, you will include the summary of the research problem, inferences made to address the problem, and the last one is recommendations for future work. And that's the IMRAD format. Now let's proceed to the content and style of academic text. Now when writing academic text, these are the things that you can include. State critical questions and issues. Next, provide facts and evidences from credible sources. And use precise and accurate words for clarity and be mindful of the jargons. Now, what do you mean by jargons? Jargon refers to the special words or expressions that are used by a particular profession or group and are difficult for others to understand. For example, if I was say acute, agonal, atypical, comorbid, and idiopathic, would you be able to understand them easily? I guess not, since these words are commonly used in the medical field. How about these words? Scalable, equity, leverage, core competency, and crowdsource. But if you are an ABM student or a business student, then you can really understand these words since they are used by businessmen. How about this? Affidavit, appellant, bench trial, conviction, and deposition. Okay? These words are commonly used by lawyers. And those are examples of jargons. Now let's proceed to the stages of reading. I know you already know this one since balik-balik na good na siya class. Okay, so let's just have a quick review about it. So reading has 3 stages. We have before reading, during reading, and after reading. So let's start first with the before reading. So what do you mean by this? So before reading is also called pre-reading. This activates the students' prior knowledge and introduces them to the topic they are going to read. This means that before reading any text or articles, you have to activate your prior knowledge first, or what we call your mental schema. Because in this stage, this is the time wherein you are still making assumptions as to what the text is all about. The time wherein you still ask yourself, unsa ka ni siya about, no? Nganong ing-aniyahang title? Because in this stage, you still prepare your mind to interact with the new information contained in the text. Now, these are some of the things that you can do in this stage. First, determine which type of academic text, article, review thesis, etc. you are reading. Next, determine and establish your purpose for reading. Next, predict or infer the main idea based on its title, and state what you already know and what you want to learn about the topic. Okay, so actually there are many things that you can do in this stage, class, but I did not include everything on my presentation. So just read the rest of the things that you can do in this stage on your ebook, okay? Now let's proceed to the next stage of reading. We have during reading. During reading is the stage that supports students' comprehension, checks the vocabulary, and looks for clues during the reading. The idea here is for students to know what they have been reading. For during reading, this is the time wherein the interaction between the text and the readers occurs. So this is the stage wherein the readers already start reading the text until he or she fully understands its meaning. This is also the time wherein you can write some annotations. So what do you mean by annotations? Annotations refers to a note of explanation or comment added to a text or diagram. This is also called marginal annotations or margin notes. So for during reading, these are some of the things that you can do. Annotate important parts of the text. Write keywords or phrases on the margins in bullet forms. And write a symbol on the page margin where important information is found. And the last one we have, write brief notes on the margin. Okay, so there are actually a lot of things that you can do in this stage, but just continue reading from your ebooks, okay? Now let's proceed to the last stage of reading, which is the after reading. After reading is designed to extend the student's appreciation of what he or she has read. So this is the time wherein the reader has fully understood the text, the time wherein he or she starts reflecting, summarizing, and making conclusions as to what he or she has read. Okay, so diri mo sud ang imuhang mga realizations sa imuhang gibasa. And some of the things that you can do in this stage are the following. Reflect on what you have read. React on some parts of the text through writing. Discuss some parts with your teacher or your classmates. And the last one we have, link the main idea of the text to what you already know. Alright, so I hope by now you already understood the 3 stages of reading. So now let's proceed to our next topic, which is all about the reading strategies. And to do this, we will have an activity first. So I want you to get another sheet of paper and your ball pen. Okay? And if you already have your paper and pen, I have here a passage. What you are going to do is that I want you to scan the text and identify its structure first. Okay? Are you done scanning? Next, I want you to take note of your questions about the passage. You can at least write 3 questions about this. If done, then I want you to read the whole text quickly. Do not stop even if there's something difficult that you do not understand. Are you done reading? Next, I want you to look back at your query questions. And the last one, I want you to read important sections again slowly. And remember why you are reading. Okay? Are you done? So if you followed all of my instructions, then you already did one of our reading strategies, which is the SQ3R model. For SQ3R model, we have survey, query, read, recall, and review. So for survey, you will scan the text and identify its structure. You will ask yourself, do you need to read this text? Next, for query, you have ask yourself about each question. So you will ask yourself, what do you expect to discover? And for reading, you have to read the whole text quickly. Do not stop even if there is something difficult that you don't understand. Okay, and for recall, you have to look back at your query questions, then identify which sections help you. And the last one we have review. You have to read important sections again slowly and remember why you are reading. And also take notes so that you can remember helpful information and where you found it. Okay, and that's the SQ3R model. Now let's have another activity. So I want you to get another paper and then draw this one in your paper. Done? Okay, so I have here a passage that I want you to read. Okay, so in the first box, I want you to write all the things that you already know about this text by just reading the title, No Life for a Child, The Grim Reality of Nepal's Child Laborers. So if you're done answering that, in the second box, I want you to write all the things that you want to learn from this text. And afterwards, you have to read the text fully. Okay, so after answering the second box, then in the third box, I want you to write all the things that you have learned from the text. Are you done? Okay, so if you followed all of my instructions, then you already did one of the reading strategies, which is the KWL chart. So in the first box, you will write what you already know. In the second box, you will write what you want to know. And in the third box, you will write all the things that you have learned from the text. And that's the KWL chart. Okay, so I hope you got my point. Now, let's proceed to our last topic. We have locating main ideas. Kas na jud kayo ni siya nga topic last ay, no? Since elementary, we already started looking main ideas. So let's just have a quick refresher about this. So I have here a short video that I want you to watch. Alright, that's it. So I hope naka-review na gamay no about sa locating the main ideas. Okay, so I'll just include some important notes that I want you to remember, class, which is all about understanding and locating the thesis statement. So where can we find the thesis statement? In an academic text, the thesis statement is usually presented in the abstract or executive summary or found at the last part of the introduction. It is written in a declarative sentence. Take for example, in this text, the hook of adventure RPGs is the escape that they provide to the player. Okay, so while walking amidst the tall grasses in Route 169, Ash was suddenly stopped by the sight of a wild Pokemon. He opens his Pokemon case, calls out his Charizard, and gets ready for an exciting battle. This is just one of the many scenes a gamer may encounter when playing an adventure role-playing game or the RPG, a subgenre of video games where a player takes the role of a character which can interact in the game's fantasy world and play out the storyline. The hook of adventure RPGs is the escape that they provide to the player, a double-edged sword which can lead to either innocent fun or uncontrollable addiction. So if that's the introduction of the text, then the thesis statement is found at the last part of the introduction, which is the hook of adventure RPGs is the escape that they provide to the player, a double-edged sword which can lead to either innocent fun or uncontrollable addiction. Now let's have another example. We have, should parents monitor their children's internet use? The 21st century marked the digital age in human history, and humanity was introduced to the internet. It covers every field of specialization today, starting at any information humanity ever acquired on out to online communication between individuals. Access to the internet requires interaction with the computer that is provided by numerous researches to be harmful to health in an often use. Usually, it is linked to obesity, irregular sleep cycles, and shorter duration sleep, impaired vision, and loss of social skills, and we should be anxious about our children's health. But there are still other potentials and more dangerous threats the internet is linked to that we need to protect our children from. So if that's the introduction of the text, so again, the thesis statement is found at the last part, which is, there are still other potentials and more dangerous threats the internet is linked to that we need to protect our children from. Okay? Next, in order for you to know more about how to locate topic sentences or main ideas, I have here a short video that I want you to watch.
created using Powtoon.
So, before I end this video, let me share this one to you first. Once you learn to read, you will be forever free, and that's a quoting from Frederick Douglass. Okay, that's it. So thank you so much, class, for watching this video. And I really hope that you have really learned something from this one. And I also hope that you will really apply all of your learnings from this video. Okay, so goodbye, everyone. Take care, and God bless.